Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. It is Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, and this is the Daily Brief. It looks like the North Koreans were involved in their first big assault in Ukraine, well, in Kursk, so in Russia, and they got smashed. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's start here with the battlefield, the update 1,600 Russian casualties day over day. That number's high, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. 4 tanks, 15 armored fighting vehicles, 8 artillery systems, 70 vehicles, and fuel tanks. So when I say that that number is high, it's high relative to what's been happening. Beginning of December, 17, 17, 17, 16, 15, 16, 13, 14, 12, as we're just going through the month all the way down. And it started to get lower and lower, like where in the last few days it was 1390, 1040, 1280, 1070, and then 1600 again. So the 1600 went higher, but that's partly, I think, because of what happened with the Koreans. I'm not sure, but it's the temperature has seemed to be coming down. And then 1600, that seems high, but it's really not that high. It's not in the top 15 of high days for casualties. So it's higher than the last few days, but it's not really that high given the last 2 months. Okay, Ukraine's Air Force reports a Shahed drone attack overnight and early morning. Out of 31 launched, 20 were shot down, another 10 were suppressed by electronic warfare. So basically nothing got through. And this is a number, 31 is a number that's on the low side, and it's comfortable enough that it doesn't feel like they're just saving up for a rainy day. They're still trying to harass the Ukrainian population. Okay, Ukrainian energy system was hit by 1,100 Russian missiles in 2024, Ukraine's UN envoy says. 1,100 missiles. Now, we're not talking about drones. We're talking about full-on cruise and ballistic missiles targeting the energy system. Now, the energy system is an interesting thing. 60% of its power is generated by nuclear, so it's not going to be completely depleted. I think I got this from Jake Bro, who pointed out, but if you can kill the lines or the connections between things, that still will deplete the energy system in a significant way. If you can cut off the connections, and I think that's very fair. Okay. From September 20th to today, this is Andrew Perpetua. I haven't talked about his list for a number of days, and people are like, well, where's Andrew Perpetua's list, showing how many vehicles and the comparison and that sort of thing. From September 20th to today, this was posted yesterday, we have analyzed 21,222 videos. Wow. Okay. And I've personally watched probably 75% of them. It's so many videos. So if you're wondering where the backlog is, he's just trying to catch up. He says it's so frustrating trying to catch up after falling behind. We spent Sunday finishing the backlog, but Sunday ended up being a train wreck of a day where we had like 3 days worth of content all come out in a single afternoon. And we say, okay, well, we'll do it Monday at a 10,000% effort and finish it ASAP and work on Sunday. But then Monday ended up having like 4 days worth of content. So now everything's a mess. That's what it feels like trying to track this. And I have a much easier job just tracking regular news rather than trying to analyze videos and decide, which video or which is this a Russian or is this a Ukrainian vehicle and were people injured or whatever. Wow, he's got a tough job. Okay, British intelligence update. Russian military equipment losses in Ukraine continues to increase. Russia has lost over 3,600 main battle tanks, main battle tanks, and nearly 8,000 armored vehicles since February of 2022. This has led to a reliance on outdated and poorly maintained Soviet-era equipment from strategic storage depots. Armored equipment is being hauled out of storage, upgraded where possible, and sent to the front line. Okay, so, and then they showed you this imagery has confirmed a large reduction of stored armored vehicles and tank store where they have them like just warehoused. Yeah, and they show in 2022, these are where they were, and 2024, you're seeing they're missing. And 2022 and 2024, same thing again. And yeah, so that's significant that they're pulling all this old stuff out at this point. Okay, Attack of the drones, lessons from Ukraine. So this was an interesting article. Just this one paragraph I want to read. Throughout military history, opposing armed forces have strived to gain a competitive edge by finding and then successfully exploiting a technological advantage. The Macedonian phalanx, that's the long spears that they would line up in rows, that was kind of hard to get through. The Mongol mounted archers, it was like the cavalry. There was so it created great maneuver. The English longbow. These innovations allowed the nations that possessed them to dominate the wars of their time. Now, you can add to that things like the first naval battles were essentially these ships that would get close to each other and shoot each other with archery, and then the Romans came along and they got close enough where they could drop a drawbridge over and send Marines over, and then they could fight them on the boat like they were fighting on land, and that was a big innovation. And then Sir Francis Drake, when he's facing the Armada, the Spanish Armada, he doesn't want to get close enough, which is the Armada was thinking they were going to crush the English. He doesn't want to get close enough to actually cross and have that kind of fight. He stays at a good distance and shoots them with cannon. And that was a big difference. And the weather helped as well. But so these innovations come along in history, and I think we're at one of these places, these inflection places in history, in military history, in understanding innovations in war. So right now it's drones, and drones, a $300, $500 drone is taking out a tank. I mean, this is just, it's crazy. The repairability of tanks turned out 3 to 5 times below expected. Russians suddenly discover, right? So a $500 drone takes out a $1 million tank, and it's that much harder to repair than they actually thought. So it's pretty crazy what's going on. Let's look at the front lines update here. In the Kupiansk direction, defenders repelled all 3 attacks. In the Kherson direction, our troops repelled 3 enemy attacks. Zaporizhia region, the enemy attacked 4 times. Again, it's all Russia doing the attacking and Ukraine doing the defending here. In the Seversk direction, 7 times. In the Lyman direction, 15 attacks. In the Bakhmut front, 6 attacks, and then in one area, and 11 attacks in another. That's 17 attacks. In the Ramikha direction, 22 offensive actions. Kharkiv direction, invaders attacked Ukraine positions 29 times. And then, of course, Pokrovsk is going to be big. Invaders tried to break through the Ukrainian defenses 46 times. 46 times. Okay. So that's really what's like, the intensity is still in Pokrovsk, and it's going to be, and they're just going to keep putting pressure on it until they just don't have the ability to put pressure on it, or they take it. Okay. Special forces killed 50 North Korean soldiers in Kursk front. Now that's a low number here. Let's talk more about this. Soldiers of the 8th Regiment of the Special Operations Forces, that's just the special forces engaging them, of Ukraine, gave a warm welcome to North Korean troops in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation. Over the course of 3 days, special operators killed 50 enemy soldiers, wounded 47 more. So that means there's 100 casualties roughly minimum just from this engagement with the special forces. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, like, what is going on? Despite heavy losses, multiple infantry waves involving nearly 500 personnel allow North Koreans to eject Ukrainian defenders from Pelhovo village in Russia. Now, so they did actually take the village, but at a huge cost. So 500 North Koreans are involved in this, and now there's some drone footage that you see and I'm not actually showing the footage here for YouTube's sake, but you can see the drones just coming in and blowing up, and coming in and blowing up, and that sort of thing. There's a number of these videos, but the wounded North Korean soldiers in the City Clinical Emergency Hospital in Kursk, there's more than 100 soldiers. That's just 100 wounded. That's not talking about, so we're up to at least 150-ish here at this point in our calculations. More than 100 soldiers from the DPRK have been delivered there. A separate floor and separate meals have been allocated for them. And I'm not showing you any of the video here. Here's the Euromaidan press talking about the same thing. North Korean forces suffered significant casualties. North Korean units potentially lost up to 4% of their total strength in a single engagement. So understand, you're talking about 10,000 soldiers, North Koreans, and that would be up to what, 400 of them? Perhaps. Now, that's a high estimate here. The North Korean troops appear to be attacking with large infantry groups involving dozens of soldiers in each attack wave. And they're just like a dozen soldiers moving across a empty field, and they're just sitting ducks. With little mechanized support, suffering heavy casualties. The attack reportedly carried out by elements of North Korea's 92nd and 94th separate special operations brigades, eventually succeeded in capturing Pelkov from the Ukrainian defenders in Russia's Kursk Oblast. However, the victory came at a heavy cost. Ukrainian sources suggest that up to half of the approximately 500 North Korean troops involved in the assault became casualties. So I think that's a fairer number than the 400. I think the 250 is about, it's pretty fair. It's not too liberal and not too conservative. The Ukrainian defenders reported that the North Korean soldiers attacked in mass or in a crowd, making them vulnerable to Ukrainian drones and artillery fire. Yeah, so, but even then, if it's 250, that's 2.5% of their overall numbers. And if it was at 100 at this rate, they'd be gone by the middle of February if this continued at this rate. So it would be well before that if it's 250. Okay, so this is the definition of a Pyrrhic victory. A Pyrrhic victory is a victory that's not worth winning because so much is lost to achieve it. Much of this by Russia is a Pyrrhic victory. Trying to take Pokrovsk is going to be a Pyrrhic victory, I think. They'll get Pokrovsk eventually if they just keep pushing, but it's going to come at such a cost that it wouldn't have been worth taking that. Okay, and it's named after Pyrrhus, a long ago king of Epirus, who suffered heavy losses defeating the Romans in 297 BC. Okay, another story. This general was just eliminated in an exploding car in Moscow, and I'm going to give some more attention to that in a separate video. But the Security Service of Ukraine announced the opening of a criminal case against Kirillov, that's the general, yesterday. And according to the SBU, he was accused of using chemical munitions in more than 4.8 thousand cases since the beginning of hostilities. So he's a bad guy, and he's been eliminated. I'll do an entire separate video about that, I think, this afternoon. Okay, so the EU plans to train 12,000 Ukrainian soldiers by the end of winter. They've already trained 63,000 Ukrainian soldiers. That's the equivalent of 10 brigades. And that's just the EU as the EU. That's not like the US or Canadians or whatever else. So that's good to know. Now, we're going to end with this. I thought this was awesome. Ola, I can't pronounce her last name and I don't want to slaughter it. She's a World War II veteran. She celebrated her 101st birthday at the hospital where she visited wounded Ukrainian defenders. Miss Ola took part in World War II as a volunteer. She served in reconnaissance. She was injured twice and had a concussion. When the full-scale invasion of Ukraine started, the first thing Miss Ola did was call the military enlistment office to join as a volunteer again. That's hardcore. Anyone who meets Miss Ola says that she's a legendary person who impresses with a combination of sincerity, simplicity, wisdom, and humanity. So she's talking to these wounded soldiers in the hospital. Good afternoon, boys. We wish you health. I wish you the same. World War II veteran, intelligence officer, and colonel Ola visited wounded warriors on her 101st birthday. I'm so glad that I visited them, that we sat and talked. They said so many good words to me, and me too. Psychologically, we were very pleased to see each other. We talked, and my heart felt a little better. I'm proud of you. Well, I'm proud of you too. Thank you. I'm proud of you, boys. Ola volunteered to go to the front. She knows what an injury is personally. This leg was injured twice. I had a concussion, she says. For them, the defenders say, Ola is a legendary person. It's just kind of heartwarming to see. I'm impressed with the resilience of our veterans' willpower. We'll be able to walk. We'll be able to dance for sure. 100%. Thank you. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. Be looking forward to that next video about the general that was just eliminated. He's a bad guy in charge of the chemical weapons program. He's the guy behind the mosquitoes, the biological warfare, the yeah, that sort of story. So be looking forward to that. Thank you for the time, likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.